Millions and millions of people have come into our country and nobody has any idea where they're from. We aren't bringing in anyone from Gaza, Syria, Somalia, Yemen, or Libya. If you empathize with radical Islamic terrorists and extremists, you're disqualified. If you want to abolish the state of Israel, you're disqualified. If you support Hamas, you're disqualified. If you're a communist, a Marxist, or a fascist, you're disqualified. I will immediately reinstate and expand the wildly successful Trump travel ban on entry from terror-plagued countries, territories, and places. They ended it. And it just kept us safe. We wouldn't let people come in from certain countries where there's tremendous terror. Makes sense, right? If you're coming from somewhere full of people who want to kill Americans, we will not let you in. We worked very hard on that. We had the greatest border, most secure, safest border in the history of our country. We built 561 miles of wall. The Democrats fought us like crazy over the travel ban. You know that? They fought us like crazy. I had to go through the whole court system, but after 18 months in court, the Supreme Court finally ruled the travel ban was totally constitutional because we want to keep bad people out that want to destroy our country. As president, I also suspended refugee resettlement when we entered office in 2017. Nobody had ever heard of it before. We didn't want that. And we'll do it again. We'll put it right back into place. I banned refugees from Syria. I banned refugees from Somalia. Very dangerous places. And from all of the most dangerous places all over the world, I banned them. I said, I'm sorry. And in my second term, we're going to expand each and every one of those bans because we have no choice. Some very rough people, some very, very rough people come out of those areas. They want to blow up our country. We aren't bringing in anyone from Gaza, Syria, Somalia, Yemen, or Libya, or anywhere else that threatens our security. But I will say this, tremendous numbers of people are pouring into our country right now. We have open borders. It's the stupidest thing anyone's ever seen. Millions of people a month are coming into our country. We have no idea where they're coming from, but a lot of them are the same people that went around doing what they did to Israel 2 weeks ago. A lot of them are the same people. And you have a disproportionate number of young, very strong men. Strong men. Sorry, women, but I have to say this. You have a very, very powerful contingent of very strong men, and they're pouring into our country. What are they doing? What are they doing? I also issued a historic rule proclaiming that no refugees would be resettled in your communities without your consent, and we will reinstate that rule on day one. You had to consent. Because you have towns and cities, but you have towns. Look at New York, what's happened to New York, where they're laying all over Madison Avenue. You have shop owners that have been there for years. They're all closing their stores. They're going out of business. Next, we'll implement strong ideological screening of all immigrants to the United States. No longer will we allow dangerous lunatics, haters, bigots, and maniacs to get residency in our country. We're not going to let them stay here. We're not going to let it. We're going to have the largest deportation effort in history. And people say, oh, that's so mean. But I think meaner is when you have thousands of people being killed all over. It's one of those things. You know, Dwight Eisenhower, you'll feel better about this, because people didn't consider him that tough a guy, but he was actually a very good president, good general, very good general. But he became president, and he was a very big person on deportation. He deported more than anybody else. He said, they cannot be here. You have to come into our country legally. That's what I say. You have to come into our country legally, and you have to love our country. You can't hate our country. If you empathize with radical Islamic terrorists and extremists, you're disqualified. You're just disqualified. If you want to abolish the state of Israel, you're disqualified. If you support Hamas or any ideology that's having to do with that, or any of the other really sick thoughts that go through people's minds, very dangerous thoughts, you're disqualified. If you're a communist, a Marxist, or a fascist, Other than the people that are already here, of which many are in the Biden administration, you're disqualified. I'd like to get them out, too. Maybe we'll work on that next. In addition, we will aggressively deport resident aliens with jihadist sympathies. We have to. This isn't like being Mr. Nice Guy. We have to, or we're going to have a country that's going to be blown to shreds because bad things are happening. Millions and millions of people have come into our country and nobody has any idea where they're from. Some from countries that nobody's ever heard of. In the wake of the attacks on Israel, Americans have been disgusted to see the open support for terrorists among the legions of foreign nationals on college campuses. They're teaching your children hate. They're teaching your children hate. Under the Trump administration, we will revoke the student visas of radical anti-American and anti-Semitic foreigners at our colleges and universities, and we will send them straight back home. They go back home. Enjoy your life. Likewise, the mobs of, literally barbarians that we saw in the streets of New York and other cities last week have no place in America. We can't have it. We have to. No country can sustain it. And we all want to be nice, but no country can sustain it. Jewish mothers and fathers should never have to send their children to school fearing they'll be shot or stabbed on a so-called day of jihad, which is happening. It's a day of jihad. Under my administration, we will proactively send ICE to pro-jihadist demonstrations to enforce our immigration laws and remove the violators from our country. Many of these people are not from our country, and many of them are being supported with radical left money. The money from radical left people, you know who I'm talking about. We'll continue the process we started in my first 4 years of stripping citizenship from criminals, terrorists, and immigration cheaters and frauds. They've come into our country at levels, and they're coming to Iowa, you know that. And it's dangerous. You've had killings that nobody could even believe. Nobody's seen the kind of killings you've had. Finally, we cannot forget that the same people that attacked Israel are right now pouring in at levels that nobody can believe into our beautiful USA through our totally open border and southern border concept of what? Civilization, concept of stupidity. Again, we had the strongest border in history. Now we have the weakest border, I believe, in the history of the world. I don't think any border in a third world country has been like this. You take a look at what's coming in, and I think the real number is going to be 15 million people before it's over. That's bigger than New York State before it's over. 15 million people. And many of those people, again, I say it, they're from prisons, they're from mental institutions, and they're terrorists. Congratulations. This is what this man has done to our country. But I will terminate every open borders policy of the Biden administration and begin the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, larger than Eisenhower's, including all of the illegal aliens from countries that hate us. These are countries that hate us. And I will invoke the Alien Enemies Act to remove all known or suspected gang members, drug dealers, cartel members, and security threats of any kind from the United States of America. We're going to get them out of our country. It's going to happen fast, too.